Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the Minute Waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme four exciting, dynamic personalities who are going to play this game. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Tim Rice, and seated on my left, Liza, Tarbuck and Graham Norton. Please welcome all four of them. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling, who's going to help me keep the score. She'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Shaw Theatre in the Euston Road in London. We're usually in the Radio Theatre, but they've sent us out on tour. And this is as far as they could reach.
I think it's the lead on the plugs that only goes this far.
And we're going to begin the show this week with Graham Norton, and who better? Graham, the subject here is the Cornish pasty. Whoa, tell us something about that subject in this game starting now.
If someone was to put a gun to my head and ask me my favourite convenience food, I would think, what a rough farmer's market I've come to. But then, I would consider...
Tim, challenge.
I was going to challenge for hesitation, but I think he was just milking the applause. Quite rightly, Graham.
Milking the applause?
No,
I withdraw my challenge.
I think you should, because I think he was keeping good.
It was brutal.
You can't withdraw it. It's now established, and Graham gets a point because it was an incorrect challenge, and he keeps going. There are 51 seconds still available, Graham. The Cornish pasty is starting now.
The Cornish pasty or the Scotch egg? I'm like Meryl Streep in Sophie's Choice. I can't decide which is more delicious. I do love the sausage meat surrounding the egg, especially if they manage to keep the yolk running.
Tim, challenge.
A pair of eggs. Scotch egg and then...
Scotch egg, yes.
Sorry, Graham.
Right. They are very Moorish, though.
They are.
So, Tim, this time you are correct, and you've got 36 seconds to tell us something about the Cornish pasty, starting now.
Despite centuries of research, no one has ever correctly ascertained what actually goes into a Cornish pasty. The outer crust is so hard to penetrate that world experts, working in teams night and day...
Paul, challenge.
Hesitation, sadly.
Paul, the correct challenge. You have a point for that, of course. 21 seconds available. The Cornish pasty, starting now.
Well, in the old days, you used to take a bit of garlic and back you out in the field. Oh, well, that's an insulting accent. That's just insulting.
Oi. You've been challenged.
I know, I'm not surprised.
Tim, you challenge.
Repetition of...
That's right.
It did sound repetitious.
It certainly
Tim.
did.
So I
and
give you the
insulting.
benefit of the doubt. Tim, a correct challenge. The Cornish pasty is with you. 17 seconds still available, starting now.
The first gang of chaps to conquer the Eiger...
Oh, Paul challenge.
Well, it was hesitation.
It was a hesitation, Paul. So you've got it back again. Fair enough,
cracking on the
yes.
strain.
And you've got the Cornish pasty back. No, you haven't got the Cornish pasty back. You've got the subject of the Cornish
only
pasty.
we did. Wouldn't that be fantastic if there were actual Cornish pasties here? Sorry, I'm just...
I think it's a lovely thought. 14 seconds still available, Paul. The Cornish pasty starting now.
If there are any members of the audience now who crave the Cornish pasty, all they have to do is leave the theatre, turn left towards St Pancras, and if they move into the bowels of that station, they will find a shop that sells the genuine Cornish pasty.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and it was Paul Merton, so he's naturally the lead at the end of the round. And Liza, Tarbuck would like you to begin this next round. The subject is home improvement. Can you tell us something about that in this game? Starting now.
I like a little bit of home improvement, and I heard my mother relating a story that a friend of hers from years ago said, Pauline, you've always got to do one big thing towards the house every year. So I try and maintain my home, whether it's painting a wall or, in fact, like I've done the beginning of this year, putting in a new terrace.
Graham, challenge.
Repetition of year.
Oh, yes.
Sure,
yes.
I won't tell you what it looks like then. I know you want to know.
So, well, listen, Graham, you've got him with 41 seconds to go on home improvement starting now.
Home improvement strikes me as a bit of a misnomer because, in fact, before you improve your home, your place of residence becomes much worse. Covered in dust, the things that were there are now gone, but the new stuff hasn't arrived. There's no water in your bathroom, the mirrors are gone, your clothes are in a big bin bag, and yet this is home improvement. It also takes much longer than anyone ever tells you. 4 to 5 working days, or apparently about 365. I've noticed whenever I've contracted somebody to do something in my home. Home, of course, I can say more than once because home improvement is the subject. I just wanted to point that out because some of you are probably thinking, he's saying home a lot.
Tim, you've challenged.
Deviation come desperation.
Yeah, what a desperation.
That could be a lonely night for so many of us.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good challenge. All right. Tim, you have 4 seconds on home improvement starting now.
I would like to say that the only thing I care about when improving a home
Right, so Tim Rice has taken the lead at the end of that round, because they're getting extra point for speaking as the whistle went. And, Tim, it's your turn to begin. Oh, I think you know something about this one. Che Guevara. 60 seconds, starting now.
Che Guevara once marketed a form of insecticide in Buenos Aires when he was a medical student, and it never caught on. So he thought, stuff this for a game of soldiers, I shall become a revolutionary and conquer several evil governments, single-handed, or possibly with the help of the odd pal of mine such as Fidel Castro, who at the time was hiding in bushes and underneath water in lakes in Cuba, hoping to conquer...
Graham challenge.
And now hiding underwater is drowning, Tim. That's just silly talk now, Tim. Fidel never hid underwater.
He might have dived under, but he would have come up again, wouldn't he?
He'd have to. You couldn't hide.
No, well, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
I think, what benefit of the doubt? It is drowning.
Well, look at it logically. He could have dived in and stayed a bit under the water for a bit, and then he come up further down and they'd have hidden.
He probably had a straw, a reed.
Or perhaps a piece of bamboo.
Yes,
yes,
absolutely.
I withdraw it now.
No, you've got it. You have the benefit of the doubt, you have the subject, you have 35 seconds. Che Guevara starting now.
Che Guevara was a childhood hero of mine, and in fact, his beard has inspired my new look. Unless I've shaved it off by the time this goes out, in which case I couldn't care less about Che Guevara's beard. Oh, I've said that twice.
And Graham, it wouldn't have mattered if you had shaved it off, because this is radio, they wouldn't have seen you.
I know, but...
Omnipresent.
Yeah, it's about the truth. It's about the truth.
Lisa.
2 beards.
Yes, there were 2 beards, right. 22 seconds for you, and the subject, Lisa, is Che Guevara starting now.
I had the pleasure of going to Cuba years ago, courtesy of the Communist Party, which was an exciting thing straight away. And in walking in Havana, I was pleasantly surprised by Che Guevara's trousers under glass outside the National Museum. So imagine my friend Lisa Clark and I studying hard the green trousers of said...
Paul Challenge, yes.
No!
Unlikely as it sounds, the repetition of trousers.
Yeah.
Yes.
2 beards, 2
Two
trousers.
trousers.
2 beards, 2
We're
trousers.
building him slowly, ladies and gentlemen.
And Paul, you've got in with 1 second to go.
I share your disappointment.
No, the audience is divided. Some of them were clapping. Yes, yeah. 1 second, Paul, on Che Guevara, starting now.
Shea Stadium.
Paul, you're taking the lead at the end of that round, just ahead of Tim, Graham and Lisa in that order. And Paul, it's your turn to begin. How to eat an oyster.
Oh, hello.
Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Well, it all depends where you get your oyster from. If it's directly from the sea, somebody has to shut...
Graham
That was
Chan.
an actual mistake.
Was it a mistake?
Yeah, no, I genuinely didn't mean to press it.
Sort of like a Freudian slip.
It was some sort of... I apologise, I'm really, really sorry.
It's not a game to play if you have spasms.
And apparently I'm developing them. I'm so sorry.
Well, all right. Well, as you're so lovely, and we all
Won't happen
enjoy...
again.
Well, as we all enjoy your beer...
Oh, sorry, I did that again. I'll step away from the buzzer now, sorry.
In a moment, I'll give you bonus points for that.
Don't.
Paul, carry on. 56 seconds to go. Oh, get a point because he was interrupted. He must be. That's the rules of the game, isn't it? How to eat an oyster starting now.
Shucking them, that's the trouble. Very difficult indeed because you have to get the knife in, or indeed some people favour a spoon, but trying to prise apart the two pieces of shell is quite difficult, but once inside...
Tim, challenge.
Two difficults?
Yes?
Yes, well done,
Very
Tim.
honest of you, Paul,
Well
I
listened.
I think so, yeah.
Yes.
Was it?
Yes. And Tim, you've got him with 44 seconds to go on how to eat an oyster, starting now.
The shell's the hard bit to get down your gullet. I've tried this many times. The bit inside is pretty soft, but I've never got there, because outside every oyster is a socking great hard bit, which... Oh... I've just lost the will.
Graham, you challenge first.
Stoppation.
Yes.
It's hardly Attenborough, is it? It's the socking great hard bit.
It really
the
is.
oyster's great big hard bit.
It really is a very difficult subject to speak on, isn't it? Graham, you've got him in 29 seconds on how to eat an oyster, starting now.
Already I feel stupid because this subject suggests there is a wrong way to eat an oyster. I mean, do people shove it in their ear? What are they doing? I feel like I should know the correct way to eat an oyster, but as far as I know, you just...
Lisa, challenge.
There's a lot of knowing.
Yeah, not a knowing, yes.
I was just trying to talk.
I know.
And you repeated a word.
Yes, I did.
And Lisa heard it. She got in first. 14 seconds, Lisa. How to eat an oyster, starting now.
I adore oysters, and how I eat mine is to release the muscly bit in the middle and then cover it with a little bit of Tabasco and some very finely chopped shallots. Then I tilt my head and place...
I must tell our listeners that Lisa actually tilted her head right back as she said that. So if you lost a couple of words, it was her being very un-radio. But you've got another point, Lisa. You move forward. You're still in fourth place, but you move forward. Actually, there's only 1 point between all of them at this particular time. Graham, with you again. Making a good impression. That's the subject. Tell us something about it in this game, starting now.
Making a good impression isn't that difficult. Step 1, wash. No one likes a smelly fellow person. I remember working in restaurants, and for some reason it was my job to tell the other waiters when they had got past the stage of mild aroma into stench. It wasn't normally to do with the amount of washing that went on. It normally...
Paul, challenge.
Sort of hesitation, I thought.
Sort of a hesitation.
Sort of,
Sort
not quite.
of.
I don't
quite.
think it was quite enough. No.
Sure.
I think he was,
Really?
He was still keeping... I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, Graham, and Paul, I will redress the balance if I can later on, to you in your favour. 35 seconds still with you, Graham, on making a good impression, starting now.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank Nicholas Parsons for keeping me on the subject of how to make a good impression, because I've quite a lot more to say about it. So, let me return.
Tim challenge.
I mean, that was deviation. That was just grovelling. It was...
I was demonstrating how to make a good impression.
Sickening.
I was making a good impression on Nicholas.
Over on this side of the stage, the right-hand side of the stage, we felt that was...
Is that the right-hand side?
It depends where you're looking at it from.
But you're not playing as a team.
No.
No. But no, I disagree entirely, Tim, because he was trying to make a good impression by flanneling me and...
When was the last time you were flannelled? Apart from it...
Do you want to know?
That is.
You want to know as an adult or a child?
Well, whatever comes to memory first of all.
Well, as a child, I was regularly flannelled. Come on, now watch your face now. Where the flannel go? And I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just great. 24 seconds are available, Graham, on making a good impression, starting now.
If someone was to make a good impression on me, they just walk straight up and say, "Hey, Graham, that new beard makes you look a lot older." Then they'll try and talk around that and pretend they weren't insulting me. My mother said she was worried that people would say, because the moustache doesn't match the rest of said hair on face, that it's darker. She remarked that she feared...
So Graham Norton, within speaking as the whistle went, and gained that extra point. And I should explain to my listeners, it's only a limited time as he sported this amazing beard and moustache. And I think it's very attractive.
Here we go.
There we go. Liza, we're with you to begin. The subject is Blackpool Tower. Tell us something about that edifice in this game, starting now.
As a child, I've looked upon Blackpool Tower with excitement because my father used to play the summer seasons up there in Blackpool, and we'd always take a house near the dunes, and you could always...
Tim challenged.
I'm sorry, Lisa.
Always.
You always isn't.
Yeah, and hesitation.
Just one thing led to another.
Tim, you've got another point, and you've got the Blackpool Tower, 47 seconds, starting now.
Blackpool Tower is an extremely impressive building by any standards. It stands up well against the Eiffel Tower.
Lisa challenged.
I felt that was a little bit of a hesitation.
No, I think it was a bit of a hesitation.
I thought it was more dramatic effect.
It was certainly dramatic effect.
Breathing from where I was sitting.
It was. I mean, if you think about it, a little bit like the... it was breathing, but...
No, it was enough to say hesitation, Lisa. And you have the benefit of the doubt, and you have 40 seconds on Blackpool Tower, starting now.
The Blackpool Tower is, of course, exactly like the Eiffel Tower, and it...
Paul challenged.
Hesitation.
Yes, it was, but it's nothing like the Eiffel Tower, actually.
It's a bit like it.
It's a bit
Tower, let's give it that.
And it's tall, let's give it that.
Yes.
But,
and it's in Blackpool, not Paris.
Right. Paul, 34 seconds still available. Blackpool Tower, starting now.
In the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s, Blackpool was where people went for their holidays in this country. If they lived in the north, they would be proud to go to this magnificent seaside resort where there would be many piers, where shows featuring Ken Dodd, Jimmy Tarbuck, Morecambe and Wise, Hope and Keane, Nicholas Parsons with his original act Disraeli, and it was a magnificent journey all the way through.
Graham challenge.
Repetition of magnificent.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
well,
totally.
listen, Graham, yes. The 10 seconds available, Graham. Blackpool Tower, starting now.
Blackpool Tower is precisely 490 feet tall. It contains 156 tons of steel. These facts came to me very easily because I know that... I can't believe no one challenged that.
You happen to be right. You were right.
No. Just saying enough confidence. I mean, they didn't know either, so they couldn't dare challenge, did they?
Bluff.
Someone will now try and write in and say, why didn't they challenge him? Because he got the wrong figures. Doesn't matter. You kept going to the whistle when Graham got an extra point, and you've taken the lead at the end of that round. Tim, we're with you to begin now. English breakfast. Tell us something about that magnificent subject. No, that magnificent meal. Just tell us something about English breakfast. Starting now.
There is nothing like an English breakfast, except possibly another English breakfast. If you order two, they will both be fairly alike the other. I wish I hadn't got going with that particular aspect of this plot, but I shall continue undeterred. Sausages, tomatoes, bacon, eggs, black pudding.
Paul challenge.
Hesitation.
Yeah.
Beans. Oh.
Yeah, that's what you were searching for, but you hesitated, so Paul's got him 38 seconds on English breakfast, starting now.
The English breakfast is known as many things, depending on which country you're eating it in. In Ireland, they call it the Irish breakfast. It's constitutionally essentially the same thing. It covers mushrooms, black pudding, white of the same variety, and also onions sometimes, and a little bit of hash browns. I was always disappointed by the ingredients of that aforementioned dish. I thought it might have some drugs inside, but unfortunately neither that or small girl guides are indeed on the menu, because, as I mentioned earlier, they are made of potato, browned on the outside.
Lisa challenge.
You know what? I thought you were going to go into
It's not going to be bubble
brownies
and bubble
again.
all over again,
Yeah.
is it? I mean, you must remember, it was weeks ago.
remember.
Right.
Controversy about it, do you remember?
So,
That
incorrect
was an
challenge.
error, definitely an error. I think it's because you went about girl guides. I thought you were going to go brownies.
Oh,
And you'd said hash brownies.
Yes.
that's right.
So you challenged me on something I might be about to say. This game gets harder by the degree. Psychic challenges.
Yeah. They're not illegal, but
No?
they don't work in this game. But incorrect challenge, so Paul, another point to you, and 10 seconds still available. English breakfast starting now.
The first time I sat down and had a proper English breakfast, I was 20 years old. The gentleman sitting opposite me had prepared the most magnificent array of dishes. As I looked...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as a whistle went and gained that extra point. He's now taken the lead, one ahead of Graham Norton, and they're 2 or 3 ahead of Tim Rice and Liza Tarbuck in that order. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. The subject is the first man on the moon. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
The first man on the moon was, of course, Neil Armstrong, and I wondered what was pounding away inside his head as he took those steps down towards the surface. Each boot on his foot, only one. Each boot on his foot.
You can see how he gets you this game. It's very difficult. You know, you can slip up on people's names and boots and feet and anything.
Each boot on his foot.
So, who challenged who?
Yeah, well, there we are.
So, you challenged.
I think I did.
Yeah,
Yes,
Tim
you did,
challenged.
right. The first man on the moon, Tim, 48 seconds, starting now.
I remember that evening in July 1969 when we were all huddled around our little black and white television watching the first man on the moon, Neil Armstrong, descend those steps which my colleague Paul Merton described so beautifully, majestically, magnificently and colourfully as Neil's feet went...
Paul challenged.
No, I was wrong, because it was Neil Armstrong, then Neil's the second time, so
Yeah,
it was
that's
plural
right,
and singular.
well,
But there we are, it's a very clever trick if you can make it work. But I mean, I don't know if it counts whether I buzzed him before he got to the... No, it doesn't matter.
And
No, I was wrong. I was definitely wrong.
I think he was right, actually.
No.
I had not intended to be devious in the way he was
Neil's.
suggesting.
No,
I was-
he's being very generous because we didn't all hear the apostrophe S at the end. So,
It was.
well done, Tim. It was an incorrect challenge. 29 seconds still available. The first man on the moon starting now.
Every time I look up at the moon, I think it is absolutely phenomenal and extraordinary and amazing that Neil...
Graham challenge.
Two amazings.
Yes, there was amazing before.
We were about to get Neil again.
You were. No, I was going to call him Neely.
Oh, nah.
His close friends called him Neely. Buzz called him Neely.
Yeah.
So, Graham, you've got
name.
21 seconds. Tell us something about the first man on the moon starting now.
Given that in 2015 I can't get a mobile phone signal in my kitchen, I find it very hard to believe a man got to the moon in 1969. I'm not one of those conspiracy theories people, but I do sort of think they were just in a television studio somewhere in Los Angeles going... and
Paul challenge.
Repetition of...
I only said that once.
Yeah, went on a bit, though.
No, he didn't.
The first bit was like the end bit.
It didn't go on very long.
No.
I think we could say that was just a
Sure.
single...
Yeah.
Right. So, benefit... And also there are only 2 seconds to go.
Yes.
So, benefit of the doubt, Graham, and I'll address the balance if I can to you, Paul, later. 2 seconds. The first man on the moon, Graham, starting now.
Spare thought for the poor creature left inside the rocket.
So, Graham Norton, speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point, and he's now taken the lead ahead of Paul Merton, Tim Rice and Liza Tarbuck in that order. And, we've only got time for one more round.
Well faked.
Oh, you are lovely. So let me give you the situation as we do it. Just remind you when Graham Norton's in the lead, just ahead of Paul Merton, only 2 points, but then Tim Rice and Liza Tarbuck in that order. And Graham, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is my only regret. I'm sure you've got more than one. But tell us about it should be my major regret, shouldn't it, really? Anyway, they put down here, my only regret, starting now.
Anyone anyone glancing at my CV might, even at a casual glance, assume that I have many regrets. And in fact, the difficulty would be choosing my only regret. But au contraire, lovely people sitting in rows for no good reason in the Shaw Theatre on the Euston Road, I have no regrets. It's not about looking back, it's about surging forward. It's about living the life ahead of you rather than dwelling on history. Get behind me, past mistakes. I look to you in the days ahead to teach me how to live properly. Oh, I've made mistakes, don't get me wrong, but I intend to not repeat them. It is for that reason I say my only regret is that I didn't learn this earlier in life. As a child, perhaps, going to school in a small boot.
So Graham Norton started the subject and went with great style and panache for 60 seconds without being interrupted and without hesitating, repeating himself or deviating. And he gained that extra point for speaking as the whistle went and gained a bonus point for not being interrupted. And he has increased his lead slightly, and at the end of the round he's ahead of all the others. So we say, Graham, you are our winner this week. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these four excellent players of the game. Paul Merton, Tim Rice, Liza Tarbuck, Graham Norton. I thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score. She's blown her whistle charmingly when the 60 seconds elapsed. We're grateful to Victoria Lloyd, who is our producer. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're indebted to this lovely audience here in the Shaw Theatre, who've cheered us on our way magnificently. So from the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye. Tune in again the same time when we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the Minute Waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country but around the world, but to welcome to the show four exciting, dynamic personalities who are going to display their skill with words and language as they try and speak on the subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation or repetition or deviation. And those four are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Sheila Hancock, and seated on my left, Pam Ayres and Mike McShane. Please welcome all four of them. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling. She's going to help me keep the score. She'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we're going to begin with Pam Ayres. No reaction at all. Pam, a lovely subject to begin with. A hat trick. Tell us something about a hat trick in this game, starting now.
One kind of hat trick is that performed by the naffer kind of conjurer when a hat, say a bowler, is rolled across the wrist, over the elbow, up the shoulder, and with a deft flick is catapulted onto the upturned sole of his shoe, which is then dexterously thrown up onto the top of his head to tumultuous applause. I have never rated this trick very much myself, and I rank it alongside the trick with 5 interlocking rings.
Sheila, challenge.
Trick.
Hat trick. It's on the
But isn't hat trick one word? No.
No, it's hyphenated, so I think
okay.
I think it would be unfair to take it away on that one, Sheila. So Pam, actually, you've got an incorrect challenge, so you get a point for that.
Okay.
And you keep the subject.
Thank you.
And there are 26 seconds still available. A hat trick starting now.
and the production of multicoloured, triangular, conjoined silk handkerchiefs from the closed fist. Another kind of hat trick is that which occurs in cricket, when a bowler bowls out three batsmen, one after the other.
Yeah.
Was there a hesitation there?
There was a hesitation.
Yeah, it was.
She was just trying to remember how they did it. But you went for 52 seconds in all. Well done, Pam.
Oh.
So, Paul, a correct challenge. There are 8 seconds still available. A hat trick starting now.
One story I remember hearing was about a footballer 100 years ago who scored 3 goals, and the local hatters presented him with a bowler.
In this game, whoever is speaking, the whistle goes, gains an extra point. It was Paul Merton on this occasion. Mike McShane, would you begin the next round? The subject is how to talk to children. Will you tell us something about that delightful subject in this game, starting now?
Talking to children is an art form in itself. First, you must realize the small one is much more intelligent than you and has infinite impatience with your dawdling on and thinking that you're an intelligent person because you're an adult. If you approach them directly as a peer, especially with food and salty snacks, you can lure them into a conversation quite readily. Usually,
Pam, you challenged.
I did think it was a hesitation.
Yeah, I'm afraid, yes, it was a hesitation, yes. So, Pam, you've got in with 33 seconds to go on how to talk to children, starting now.
I like to read to my 2-year-old nephew from Joseph Conrad's Typhoon and Youth, and also tracts of Shakespeare and Geoffrey Chaucer's prologue to the Canterbury Tales.
Yes, Sheila.
Deviation, isn't that reading to children as
Yes,
opposed
I
to
think that's a good
talking
challenge.
to children?
Yes, you're reading to children then.
I may be
suppose
wrong
it's-
about that, but
No,
it
you're-
just...
No, you are right.
Your crestfallen face
I
makes
know.
me sad to take it away from you. But it's a correct challenge, Sheila, and you have the subject 20 seconds available, how to talk to children, starting now.
I think you should talk to children exactly the same way as you talk to adults, using long words so that they learn a bit of vocabulary and not patronising them in any way at all. Hello, how are you? And I think it's very worrying that children seem to put on voices.
So Sheila Hancock was speaking as a whistle when, gained that extra point, and now Pam, Sheila and Paul are all equal in the lead ahead of Mike McShane. And Sheila, we'd like you to begin the next round, and the subject is Greeks bearing gifts. A well-known phrase. Expound on it if you can. 60 seconds starting now.
Well, surely the whole phrase is never trust Greeks who bear gifts. And I think it derives from the Trojan horse. Troy was besieged by the Romans. No, not. What am I talking about?
Mike, you've challenged.
yes, deviation,
No, but with hesitation.
with hesitation. Oh,
Hesitation.
yeah, okay, hesitation.
Hesitation, yes, right. It probably was deviation as well, but Mike, that was so quick of you. Thank you, you got in there.
I'm learning to use this thing.
There are 39 seconds for you on the subject of Greeks bearing gifts, starting now.
Greeks bearing gifts is an old adage that's used quite often in the context of Troy. But in my case, it was at a Greek restaurant in Stockton, California, where I first encountered Damithus Papathanathlio, who brought me my first moussaka. It was something I did beware later in the day, as it ravaged my system and made me quite ill. But at first, it was a free meal. And knowing that my name is McShane, a free meal is the best thing.
Free meal.
Free meal!
Free meal, yes. So, Paul, you've got in there first.
Repetition, yes.
Repetition. A free meal. 13 seconds are still available. You tell us something about Greeks bearing gifts, starting now.
Beware Greeks bearing gifts. Where do they get the money from? Their skin. What do you get from them? Where did you knock this off from? Some stolen bit of nothing you found around the back of the co-op. I'm not touching that. This will turn up on Police 5. Or Crime Watch these days. That's what it's called. Greeks bearing gifts. Do us a favour.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went. Gained that extra point. He's taken the lead at the end of the round. And Paul, we'd like you to begin the next round. And the subject is raising the roof. Tell us something about raising the roof.
Thank you.
Starting now.
Well, raising the roof, you hear in theatrical circles, the building has been actually elevated by several inches by the sheer entertainment provided within it. If we look at this magnificent edifice that we sit in now at the British Broadcasting Corporation, we think of all the shows that have been recorded down through the years. Just a minute of... Oh, no. Talking too fast.
Mike, you've challenged.
Hesitation.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, you're right. Yes, he came to a halt. Right. Yep. 40 seconds, Mike, on raising the roof, starting now.
Although raising the roof appears to be a theatrical tradition, it actually comes from Amish farmers who celebrated putting together their barns by holding a party inside of it afterwards. The idea was that the labor itself was rewarded with an excellent evening of music and dancing and singing. But if you're Amish, it was very quiet.
Sheila challenged.
Amish.
Yes.
Amish!
Yeah. You said it earlier,
Amish,
didn't you? Yeah, it's repetition.
Did you say Amish at the beginning?
Yeah,
Yes, I did.
Ah, well, you're very honest. Thank goodness for that. Sheila, you got in with 18 seconds to go on raising the roof, starting now.
I had a terrible experience with the planning department once when I lived in the country. A man forced me to have my entire roof taken off and build a foot because he said the ceilings were too low. The man next...
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well listened.
I was going to tell you a really good story of corruption then.
Good story of corruption we were going to hear then. Yeah, we're going to hear that.
So, Mike,
get
you
it back, I'll finish.
cleverly got in with 3 seconds to go. And you've still got the audience with you. 3 seconds on raising the roof, starting now.
These agricultural pioneers often
So at the end of that round, Mike McShane, speaking as a whistle win, gained that extra point. He's now equal with Paul Merton in the lead, 1 ahead of Sheila Hancock and 2 ahead of Pam Ayres. Pam, we'd like you to begin the next round, the Land of Nod. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
Most people think the land of Nod means sleep, but originally the meaning was a place of banishment and exile to which Cain was sent after he lured his brother Abel out into the fields and mercilessly bludgeoned him to death in a vortex of jealous rage. God sent him to the land of Nod, which is to the east of Eden, which, as you will already recollect, is the name of a favourite novel of mine by John Steinbeck. There he wandered in despair and repentance and said to the Lord, "Oh, don't send me because everybody will see what I've done, my hideous deed."
Sheila Hancock challenge.
Hesitation, isn't it?
The aye.
Oh.
I know, it was so good. So intelligent and so informative, too.
Thank you.
I knew that.
Well, tell us more about the Land of Nod, Sheila. You've got 20 seconds still available, starting now.
Well, I'm going to talk about the other land of Nod, which is what we colloquial talk of as when we go to sleep.
Pam challenge.
Talk.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yes.
Very good.
Well, listen, Pam. So you've got in there with 15 seconds still available. The Land of Nod, starting now.
And the Lord spake.
Repetition of Lord.
And they had the Lord, yes, he banished him, didn't he? The Lord did. So there are 13 seconds still available, Paul. The Land of Nod, starting now.
As I slowly slept into my dreams, I realised that the dreams... Oh. Rubbish. That was all rubbish.
Yeah, I know.
dreams.
Yes,
Dreams,
that's
absolutely.
right. And Mike, you've cleverly got him with 6 seconds to
I
go.
think it was clever, but...
So 6 seconds available, Mike. The Land of Nod, starting now.
The land of Nod was supposed to be a peaceful place, but with Winkin and Blinkin banging on.
So Mike McShane was speaking as the whistle went, gained an extra point, and he has taken the lead at the end of that. And Mike, it's your turn to begin. And the subject is the Taj Mahal. Tell us something about the Taj Mahal in this game, starting now.
The Taj Mahal is a magnificent edifice carved of marble, put together as a tribute to a dying wife who gave birth to a Mughal emperor's son. It uses an inlay technique called pietra dura, which I actually had used at one time in marquetry, where you take small pieces of wood and insert them into a larger schematic frame. Now, this is...
Oh, it was so interesting, too. So, Pam, you challenged first.
It was hesitation.
It was hesitation,
Yes, it was.
yes. Pam, there are 36 seconds still available. The Taj Mahal are starting now.
I often wonder what kind of monument my husband would erect to me. Probably an enormous chicken house made of corrugated iron and graced with a fox-proof fence on the perimeter.
Sheila,
The
challenge.
subject is the Taj Mahal, not your monument.
That crossrail going underneath.
I think it
Far
was...
from the surface, is it?
I think it was a sound of approval for Sheila's challenge.
No, it wasn't. It was disapproval, I think.
Oh, I see what you mean, yes. Sheila, a correct challenge.
How many seconds?
23 seconds. The Taj Mahal starting now.
The Taj Mahal genuinely is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. And it upset me the last time I went there that everybody was looking at it through mobile phones, not at the actual thing. And the whole edifice is so magnificent.
Mike, challenge.
Repetition, the word whole. Whole life and whole.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Oh, Mike, you really know how this game's played now, don't you? Right. So,
They've come over here, taken over our panel game. It'll be just a McDonald's in a year from now.
5 seconds available, Mike, on the Taj Mahal starting now.
Ordinarily, the construction of these mausoleums was using brick, but...
So at the end of the round, Mike McShane was then speaking again as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and he has increased his lead over the head of the other three. And Sheila Hancock, it's your turn to begin. And the subject now is free spirits. Talk on that subject if you can, starting now.
I really like free spirits. They are my very favourite people in the world because they do what they feel like when they do. And I think I have already repeated do, Mike.
But Sheila, I wouldn't draw attention to it. Sometimes they don't notice
I want to
anything.
be on the side of him.
Oh, right. So, Paul, you challenge.
Self-confession.
Self-confession.
Yeah.
You did repeat it.
Repetition.
46 seconds are available, Paul, on free spirits starting now.
As my eyes gazed around the bar, I realised that the barman had left. This was my opportunity. I sidled underneath the wooden hatch, reached for the glass bottles in front of me. First, whiskey, followed by vodka and gin. I was knocking it all back in one big beaker. I was so drunk, and it was a huge shock to me when I was told I was about to appear on Just a Minute. I turned to Nicholas Parsons, who was lying in the same gutter as me, and I said, "What are we going to do? We're going to be on air very shortly." He brushed down his beautiful blazer, adjusted his striped tie.
Pam's challenge.
Deviation.
Why?
Yes, he's got a beautiful blazer. Is that what you're saying? It's outrageous.
Now, I think you sort of wandered off the subject onto Nicholas's blazer lying in the gutter and wandered away from the subject.
been drinking
This is the result of the free spirits we've been drinking.
It's a true event.
All right, then.
No, I think I've got to give the benefit of the doubt to Paul, yes. The result of the free spirits we were
I
drinking.
take a very dim view of this, Nicholas.
If I can...
I would agree with her because the subject where he was punning on the idea of free spirits, then he deviated from that.
Listen, he's getting above himself now. Isn't he?
Yes, sir. Hey, what's happened to this money? It's turned into dollars. What the hell?
He's taking over the chair now.
Blimey, Mr. Hobbins, where'd you get that paperbook? Oh, Bert, you're such a free spirit. I know, I can't help it. It's because I'm a chimney cleaner.
Pam, if I can redress the balance
Is this
meter.
why we fought the Second World War? Which, Mike, for your information,
By the way,
started
we
in
just shut up.
1939. 1939, yes.
Well, anybody in the audience have anything to say on the subject?
We'd be serving bratwurst to Trafalgar Square if it wasn't for us.
Oh,
I love the way
right.
this show brings people together.
Right, so Pam, if I can redress the balance and give the benefit of the doubt to you, I will, but this time it goes to Paul, and he still has 9 seconds on free spirits starting now.
I was reading about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and he was very much a free spirit, setting out to be a doctor at first, but then changing his mind and gripping hold of literature.
So at the end of that round, Paul Merton must speak as a whistle when gained an extra point. He's caught up with Mike McShane. They're both in the lead now, just ahead of Sheila Hancock and just ahead of Pam Ayres. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is something right up your street, I'm sure. Mrs. Beeton. You've written it down?
Yep.
Would you talk on the subject? 60 seconds if you need it. Starting now.
Mrs. Beeton was a character from mid-18th, 19th century London, in fact, and she wrote the first book that was called Mrs. Beeton's Guide to Household Management, I believe. And what was revolutionary...
Sheila Hancock.
Do I believe?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yes, you believe too
Very-
much.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Sheila, correct challenge. You're in there on Mrs. Beeton, and 50 seconds available starting now.
From what I know of her, she was a quite extraordinary woman. She had lots of children and a very difficult life. A dodgy husband who pretended he wrote some of the stuff. And she, in fact, didn't...
Oh, my.
Repetition?
Pardon?
Oh, yes.
She repeated?
Yes.
The word she?
She, yes, repetition.
repeated?
Yes.
Sharp challenge.
She? Repetition of she?
He's getting very sharp on the game now, isn't he? Right. So, Mike,
Three-letter words are in.
on that occasion, with such an emphasis, I will grant it to you, Mike. Mrs. Beeton is the subject, and there are 37 seconds starting now.
With all the children that Mrs. Beeton had, the one that she loved the most was Cecil Beeton, who used to take delightful photographs of the food, dressing them in elegant gowns and photographing them in stark black and white
Paul challenge.
Repetition of quite a long word, photographing.
Oh, yes. I'd like to know how he dressed the food in gowns.
You must have seen a tart dressed up... Well, no, sorry. No. I stopped myself then. The strain nearly killed me, but I stopped myself.
Well done, Paul. You have another point. You have the subject. 25 seconds. Mrs. Beeton starting now.
The reason why we still remember it is because for the first time, recipes as we now accept them in books were produced in that form by Mrs. Beeton. So it was rather revolutionary, although I believe she gathered a lot of material from past writers and put it together in this one volume. However, she was naturally the first to become hugely well known for her culinary skills. She would...
Pam challenge.
Well, if we're talking about she,
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
repetition of
Yes,
she.
yes. No, Mike had it on she before.
Yeah.
You've got it on
Thank
she now.
you, Nicholas.
Absolutely. And you've got in with 1 second to go. So a correct challenge. 1 second. Mrs. Beeton, Pam, starting now.
I have a book of Mrs. Beeton's.
And we're back with you to start, Pam, actually.
Oh, gosh.
Yes.
Right.
And Pam, the subject is the mother of all invention. Are you writing it down? No, it doesn't matter.
No.
The mother
I've got
of
it
all
in the
invention
brain.
is the subject starting now.
Necessity is the mother of all invention, which is to say that only in a crisis would you come up with the remedy. For instance, consider a man slumped on his sofa in front of the television. No, he does not think of leaping out of the upstairs window. However, if flames are licking the buttocks of his pyjamas, he may quickly invent a way of stringing together...
Paul challenge.
Well, strictly speaking, pyjamas don't have buttocks. The buttocks of your pyjamas. You don't say, oh, I've got... Look at the arse on that pyjama.
The buttocks belong to his body, darling, I think. So.
I just thought it was a good word. And I didn't really want to say if flames were licking his buttocks, because it sounded a bit unsavoury.
It's one of those Marmite things, isn't it? You either love it or you...
Pam, I gave it against you before and said that Paul had the benefit of the doubt. And I know what you wanted to say, but didn't quite get to it. So I'm going to give you your benefit of the doubt now and see. And say you still have the mother of all invention, and a point, of course, 37 seconds starting now.
Consider early man struggling as he did with great stone plinths towards such sites as Stonehenge, Great Rollright and the pyramids.
Sheila challenge.
Great.
The two greats.
Oh, blow, yeah.
Sheila, you have 27 seconds on the mother of all invention starting now.
My mother was the most inventive woman. She would have inventive jumpers that we wore that she made out of unravelled...
Mike challenge.
Oh. No?
Are we really not allowed to say she now?
Well,
Is it...
we usually let them go, Mike.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Okay.
No, that's all right, but you did it before and we gave it to you, so I'll have to do it again. And you have 18 seconds on the mother of all invention starting now.
Inventiveness is... Hey, there. Give it up gladly.
Right. Paul.
Hesitation,
That was a hesitation, Paul. So 16 seconds still available, and you have the mother of all invention starting now.
I stood looking at the aeroplane I had built. The Wright brothers next door were listening to my plans, but I had every reason to beat them to the sky. I strapped myself into the wooden contraption, looked up towards the window. I thought I'd never get through that, but I gave it a go.
Right, so we're moving into the final round. What a lovely audience you are.
Yeah.
So I think you'd like to know the state of play as we do so. It's very, very close. In a very strong third place are Pam Ayres and Sheila Hancock together, but only just 3 points ahead is Mike McShane, and 1 point ahead of him is Paul Merton. And Mike, it's your turn to begin, and the subject, marmalade. Mike, I don't know how you feel about marmalade, but talk on the subject. 60 seconds starting now.
I love the sticky, sweet, unctuous citrus flavor of marmalade. There is nothing more enjoyable than getting up in the morning, cutting a slice of bread, and spreading it thick like sunshine on a doorstop. Once when I had marmalade, I was smitten forever. I often go to Fortnum and Mason's where they have a wall of it standing with various flavors added to it.
Pam challenge.
I think it's a repetition of flavour.
Yes, the
Yes.
flavour, right. 36 seconds available. Tell us.
Flavour and flavours.
Ooh.
It was plural and then singular.
Yes.
I did plural and singular.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
That's not repetition.
No, it's
No,
not
in
repetition.
that case,
Thank
I
you, Paul.
retract
What do we do
my
without you?
challenge.
So, Mike, with an incorrect challenge, you still have marmalade, and you've got 36 seconds available, starting now.
I found that the best quality of the truly British object is when it's made by an English mother. Yes, when it's...
Pam challenge.
A repetition of English.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes. So, Pam, correct challenge. You've got in with 27 seconds to go on marmalade, starting now.
Someone once told me a tale about marmalade, that the name came from a French woman called Mary who was ill, hence Mary Malade. I personally think this is a load of old cobblers.
Sheila challenge.
She was French. It was Marie Malade, not Mary.
Well, I'm saying that it became bastardised over a period of time.
Well, I mean, you can still call her Mary. even
But if
though
you said
when
it
over there,
quickly,
they would pronounce
Mary
it.
Malade, what I'm
Yes.
saying is this person said
Marmalade.
that people said Mary Malade and it became
Marmalade.
abbreviated to Marmalade.
Marmalade.
That's what she told me. As I say, I thought it was a
You've got the benefit of the doubt.
Marmalade.
Pam.
Thank you.
15 seconds, Pam, on marmalade, starting now.
I like to make all kinds of marmalade from citrus fruits, including oranges, lime, grapefruit and kumquats. I don't really use them, but I just like the name. However, I don't like to use...
Paul challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Repetition of like.
Yeah.
Like to use,
Yeah,
yes,
it was.
right.
Yes.
So, Paul, you've got in with 1 second to go. And the subject is marmalade, starting now.
Oranges from Seville.
So I said that was to be the last round, and certainly it was. And when these last four were together, it was Sheila Hancock who came out on top. and she was our winner. This time she's trailed a little way behind Pam Ayres, who did extraordinarily well, but she was 2 points behind Mike McShane, who trailed a lot, but he did so well this time around. But he didn't quite catch up with Paul Merton, who was in the lead and kept it, and so we say, Paul, you are the winner this week. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Sheila Hancock, Pam Ayres and Mike McShane. We are grateful to our producer, Victoria Lloyd. I'm grateful to Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle with such style when the 60 seconds elapsed. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we are very grateful to this lovely audience here, who cheered us on our way magnificently. From them, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye. Tune in again, the same time when we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, dynamic personalities who are going to play Just a Minute. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Marcus Brigstocke, and seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Lucy Beaumont. Please welcome all 4 of them. And, as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling, who's going to help me with the score, and she will blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And Gyles Brandreth, we'd like it if you would begin. And the subject now is received pronunciation. Can you tell us something about that?
I told you it was going to be posh.
Yeah, a posh subject, a posh fellow. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Well, given that you have allowed me to speak on received pronunciation, and people say that that is what I do all the time, possibly there will be no deviation, because whatever I say is illustrating received pronunciation. How now, brown cow, is a perfect example of enunciating with received pronunciation. Whereas, ach aye, hoots and away, Dr. Snoddy, this is Janet here, waiting with your dumplings, is my pathetic attempt at a Scottish accent. Received pronunciation is the pronunciation that we give received from the nation. The Queen's English is what the monarch would speak were she actually of our nationality. She is, of course, German. We know that she comes from a heritage that is Teutonic. However, received pronunciation is what is distributed, and the B Broadcasting Corporation used to...
Marcus is Janet.
Yes, I'm not entirely sure, but I think there was a deviation from English there.
Well,
I couldn't follow what you were saying anymore.
This is about 15 years ago.
Is that not part of the game?
Don't listen to him.
This is why received pronunciation has been abandoned by the BBC, because nobody understands it anymore.
They do understand it, but they don't embrace it any so much.
They don't embrace it.
Yes.
But that's what I would have
But
said.
you speak received pronunciation.
Do
so
I? I don't know. I don't.
Yeah.
I speak what I call actors' English.
Yeah, well, I was coming on to that.
Sometimes a minute isn't enough for you, is it?
It's a spin-off show on Radio 4 Extra called Just an Hour.
I could settle down to just a decade. Imagine the box set for that.
I don't think I can give you a point because you got a bit bored.
No, I wasn't bored. I just couldn't follow. Were you saying something about the BBC?
I didn't want to repeat B, so he said B.
I was about to say BBC, and then I remembered, so I had to say B Broadcasting Corporation.
Yeah.
So I was avoiding a
Broadcasting.
repetition.
He was avoiding...
I see,
avoiding
yes.
BB.
Yeah.
It was a clever way of getting out saying BBC.
Yeah.
Yes, it was too clever for me. I panicked and buzzed in.
Anyway, he's only got 4 seconds to go.
4 seconds.
So it would have been little...
Seems a shame now. He'd have got the whole minute if it weren't for me.
But he's got a point because he was interrupted.
Yes, I feel
And he's
wretched
still got
about
4
the whole
seconds
thing.
to go. 4 seconds, Gyles, starting now.
People admire regional accents, and so do I, but received pronunciation is essentially what the nation wants.
So Gyles gets that other point for speaking as the whistle went, and at the end of that round, he's the only one who's got any points. Lucy Beaumont, we'd like you to begin the next round, and the subject is hand-me-downs. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
My mother once handed me some clothes and said, these belong to your sister, which was funny because I don't have a sister. But I think what she was doing...
Marcus challenge.
Yes, a repetition of sister.
There were too many sisters.
Oh, of
down
course,
here.
yes.
The sister, ironically, you don't have.
Yeah.
I should explain to our listeners, this is only the second time that Lucy's played the game, so she's not quite as au fait with the rules as others, but that was a correct pronunciation. Correct challenge from Marcus there. And there are 53 seconds available. Hand-me-downs, Marcus, starting now.
My older sibling is indeed my sister, and that meant that hand-me-downs were very awkward. We simply swapped my name to Marcia, and I lived quite happily in an all-girls school for about 14 years, wearing the dresses and skirts given to me by my parents. It was awkward, sure.
Yes, you'll challenge, Lucy. What was your challenge? Deviation?
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
It was deviation.
Nothing deviant about wearing your sister's clothes.
I think there was something very devious about going to an all-girls school. I don't believe that at all. Do you, Lucy?
No.
So, deviation, yes, Lucy, well listened and well challenged. So, you've got a point for that, Lucy,
Thank
for the correct
you.
challenge. And there are 35 seconds. Tell us more about hand-me-downs, starting now.
Hand-me-downs are not as popular as they once were in the 80s. I think this is largely because maybe parents sort of love their second child more than they used to then. Because, of course, when you had hand-me-downs, actually they were bought for the first sibling and then they were given to the other one. And obviously this is because there just maybe wasn't a loved. This could have then made...
Marcus challenge.
Yeah, repetition of loved.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Marcus.
I wasn't criticising the notion of loving more than once.
No, it's just that they wanted Lucy to continue, everything. Anyway, 10 seconds, Marcus, a correct challenge, and hand-me-downs is with you, starting now.
The subject has been handed down to me, and it doesn't fit, and it feels uncomfortable.
Giles challenge.
A repetition of fit. Earlier on, we had him fitting the word fit.
Absolutely. We talked about the clothes fitting on from you.
They didn't fit.
From your daughter, didn't fit. Right at the beginning. So well listened, Giles. Correct challenge, 5 seconds, hand-me-downs, starting now.
I'm entirely dressed these days in Dolce & Gabbana. Hand-me-downs from Elton and David.
Paul challenge.
Sorry, dog shit and what? I mean, I don't follow fashion normally, but...
No, I got it was Dolce.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
It certainly sounded like...
I have to tell you, the received pronunciation was quite clear. You
have 1 second in Giles on hand-me-downs, starting now.
My wardrobe is entirely full of...
So Giles was speaking to the whistle when gained that extra point, and he's now in a strong lead ahead of the other three. Marcus Brigstocke, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject, I'm sure, has been chosen especially for you. Facial hair. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
I have facial hair. I have presently a beard, which also contains a moustache. I'm a very hirsute man, front, back and all over. Every time I go to the hairdresser and they reach the back of...
Lucy challenge.
Well, I thought you said hair, but then I heard a lady say you said back, so I think I'll go with... I'll go with what the...
So the lady in the front row gets a point.
Yeah. So there are 46 seconds available for you, Lucy, having gained a point on facial hair, starting now.
A lot of grandmas have facial hair, which is okay, isn't it? Because it sort of makes them sort of rustic-y looking.
Marcus challenge.
It's repetition of sort of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed, yes, right. Marcus, you're back in again. 35 seconds on facial hair, starting now.
A lot of hipsters have facial hair now, which has rather discredited the entire endeavour. However, I am unable to get through the day without going to bed with a full face full of...
A full face?
No, I can't. It's one of the things.
Can anyone I can send money to?
Yeah, there'll be an appeal.
Giles, you challenge.
Deviation from anything comprehensible at all, combined with a gradual hesitation.
Well, what do you want? What's your challenge?
My challenge really would be deviation. It made no sense whatsoever, and he was acknowledging it.
It's true.
It's true.
I
Nothing
admit
to do
it.
with facial hair, going to bed. No.
Nothing to do with facial hair, the whole thing, and also it made no sense. Deviation from facial hair.
Right, you got my point. And 22 seconds, Giles. Facial hair starting now.
I have a very smooth face, lacking in facial hair, except for my eyebrows, which some people find really quite sexy.
Marcus challenge.
Yeah, there's a deviation. I mean, I'll grant you that there's no hair there, but there's an awful lot of wrinkles. I mean, I'm just... You did say smooth.
You did say smooth.
Could we take a vote on this? There are 1,000 people in the room. Shall we perhaps, Nicholas,
They're not close enough.
because they're looking at this face, and I think they're deciding smooth. Smooth.
From that distance, it does look smooth.
A lot of them are thinking we've got most of what we need for a Waldorf salad. I'm so sorry.
I think what I'll have to do is give the benefit of the doubt to Marcus, but I will redress the balance if I can with you, Giles, later on.
Thank you.
14 seconds are still available, Marcus. Facial hair starting now.
I always rather fancied Fu Manchu's long, dangly moustache. It seemed a magnificent...
Giles
A
challenge.
repetition of moustache. Earlier on, we heard about the
You are
moustache.
quite right. I've goaded him now.
Well listened and well remembered, Giles. 8 seconds still available on facial hair starting now.
Once upon a time, I had a chest wig, matching underarm toupees, and across my face, the most extraordinary facial hair that people simply found.
So the end of that round. Yes, Giles has increased his lead ahead of Marcus Brigstocke and Lucy Beaumont and Paul Merton in that order. And Paul, it's back with you to begin. The subject is my favourite game, starting now.
Undoubtedly my favourite game is playing just a minute. Here we are sitting in the heart of the British Broadcasting Corporation, listening to this magnificent game being played out in front of a very appreciative studio audience. Nicholas Parsons has hosted this game now since 1967 and soon will be celebrating 50 years in the job, and what a magnificent achievement that will be. I think we should take up the rest of this time rapidly through the rest of the minute. What did you stop for? You meant to clap to the end. Is that all that Nicholas is worth to you? A desultory round of applause. That's a shameful, Nicholas. 50 years. The other side of the Labrador. Meanwhile, I'm sorry.
Giles, you challenge.
There was a deliberate, heroic pause.
There was.
For understandable reasons, but a pause it was nonetheless.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, well, what I have to do then, Paul, because you were so magnanimous in your praise there, and you stopped because you wanted the applause, we give him a bonus point to Paul. And Giles, you get a point because it was a correct challenge. And there are 30 seconds available. My favourite game starting now.
My favourite game rather depends on the day that it happens to be. On Monday, it will be Monopoly. Tuesday, Scrabble. Wednesday, L'Attack. Thursday, Cluedo. Quite exciting that, to be with Colonel Mustard there in the library. And then on Friday, I play a round of whist. Saturday, Bridge is my favourite game. And then I get to Sunday when I play dominoes.
Paul challenge.
Can you have 7 favourite games?
Yes.
Does my favourite game sort of imply there is one that you place above all others? My
No.
favourite?
On each day of the week, I have a different mood. You know how it is? I've got 7...
Tell us
It's a
again
very
what you play
difficult
on
one, isn't
Monday.
it? Because
What's the one you play on Monday?
You've got a lot of logic in that challenge, Paul, because my favourite game means you have a favourite which eliminates the others.
Yes, I would have thought so.
Also very
Nicholas, you have several children. Do you have one of them that is a favourite, or are they...
I do. On Monday, it's my son. On Tuesday,
It's a bowl of spaghetti. On Wednesday, it's a tractor. On Thursday, it's Louis Armstrong. On Friday, it's Gloucestershire. They're my favourite games.
Who did I give the benefit of the doubt to last time, Paul or Giles?
Oh, I don't know. Give it to Gyles.
No, that's fine.
You had the benefit of the doubt last time.
I might well have done, yes.
Yes, because I've run through the week now, you see.
What is April, March, January?
I'm going to choose a specific favourite game.
No, you can say my favourite game on each different day.
Thank you.
You had the benefit of the doubt on this occasion. I have redressed the balance, and you have 6 seconds available. My favourite game starting now.
I'm proud to say that I'm the founder of the National Scrabble Championships. This is a competition. I've repeated Scrabble.
Marcus, you challenge first.
Yes, I think you repeated Scrabble.
Well, he knows he repeated Scrabble. He admitted it to you.
Yeah.
And you've got in cleverly with 2 seconds to go. On my favourite game, Marcus, starting now.
Are you there, Moriarty? Yes.
So at the end of that round, Marcus Brigstocke was speaking as the whistle went. Gained that extra point. He's moving forward on Gyles, who's still in the lead. And Gyles, it's your turn to begin. The subject now is Galileo. Galileo. A little thought, because it's a complex subject. Starting now.
Galileo is a role played by Sir Michael Gambon, Simon Russell Beale, and I believe Charles Norton in 1945, when Bertolt Brecht first produced his production of Galileo. I have essayed this part myself in the same season when I was starring in Harold Pinter's play The Workhouse Donkey, and also as
Paul Challenge.
I find it hard. Did Harold Pinter write a play called The Workhouse Donkey? I mean, I know most of them, the homecoming, the party, the birthday party, but
I think his face tells us everything.
No.
Yes.
No. There was a dispute over The Workhouse Donkey. It could have been by John Arden, but...
But I don't believe you played the lead in it.
Oh, The Workhouse Donkey, I'm afraid I did. I was
Well,
born
you were
for
in the
that
wrong
part.
play. If you're thinking Harold Pinter wrote it.
I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt
I think
to Paul
you're
on
right.
this
Can I
occasion.
say, I think you're spot on.
I think so. I think so. You're a great bluffer, Giles. Correct challenge, Paul. 35 seconds available. Galileo starting now.
Can you do the fandango? That would be my first question to him. Because I believe that Galileo is one of the great dancers of his time. If you look at the record, Strictly Come... You know, I don't say dancing again.
So what's your challenge, Giles?
My challenge was hesitation.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. So you've got the subject back. 24 seconds. Galileo, Charles, starting now.
He was a remarkable individual, Galileo, the founder of so much of our science, and we have to admire him. Though when I was doing my little bit that famous year in which I did not appear in the aforementioned drama, but in another one where I was actually crap in a play by...
That's Samuel Beckett, isn't it? Crap's Last Take.
Yeah. So I was right that time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't written by Galileo.
The point I'm trying to make is that I appeared in a season of plays. There was some confusion about what was going on. But after I'd been in Samuel Beckett's Crap's Last Tape, I then moved on to Bertolt Brecht's Galileo.
And people said you were still crap. We had to get there in
Giles,
the end.
you're wriggling and you're doing very well, but I'm
Yes.
not going to allow it. So, Lucy, you challenge first.
Yeah.
What is your challenge?
I thought he said the word actually.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
I bet I did.
Yes, he did.
I did.
I think
So,
he did.
Lucy, you've cleverly got in with 6 seconds to go.
Lucy.
Galileo, starting now.
When I think of Galileo, sadly, I do think of...
And she was speaking as the whistle went, so she got the extra point for doing that, Lucy, and you have moved forward. You're still in 3rd place, but you moved. Paul's trailing a little. He's in 4th place there. And who's out in the lead? Gyles is out in the lead. And Paul, it's back with you to begin. The subject is Up the Garden Path. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
As I moved slowly up the garden path, I knew that my destiny lay just ahead behind the shrubbery. A shed had been built by my arch enemy, Methuselah, a man who I'd known for decades. You might prefer the name Nicholas Parsons, but I saw behind the wizened features a creature of evil. Who buzzed it? Who buzzed it?
Repetition of behind.
Behind?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's an important message for humanity I was giving them.
Yes.
Wasn't
Gyles,
it?
correct. So you've got the subject back up the garden path,
Up the
starting
garden
now. And,
Hesitation.
yeah.
Yes, there was. I was
Yes.
just gathering my thoughts.
Yes.
You almost said that person's name.
Yes, all right, Lucy, well done, well listened. And... 18 seconds, Lucy, up the garden path, starting now.
Up the garden path is something I do very often to get to my shed. It's a nice little shed and it's a nice path.
Paul challenge.
Repetition of shed.
Yes, you've got
Right.
in anyway, Paul. And you've got 12 seconds on up the garden path, starting now.
The crazing paving leads me to one direction. Not necessarily the boy band.
Marcus challenge.
Your deviation, I think you said crazing paving.
I did. I actually got it wrong.
That's very honest. So, Marcus, you've got in with 6 seconds to go on up the garden path, starting now.
Sometimes I'd quite like to be led up the garden path, you know, for something exciting at the other end of it, like perhaps...
Right. Lucy, it's your turn to begin, and the subject now is rules of engagement. Can you tell us something about that pompous statement in this game, starting now?
There should be very definite rules of engagement, sort of written on a card that's sort of sent out to anybody who wants to propose to a person. I think really it should be very clear in the way that it tells you what to do. So, for instance, I was proposed to, and my partner, he got down on one knee, but he couldn't remember which one, so he got down on them both, and I opened...
Marcus.
Yeah, a repetition of got down, which
got
of course
down,
in
got
funk
down.
is
Of course.
acceptable, but here more difficult.
So, Marcus, yes, it was a definite repetition, and 30 seconds available. Rules of engagement, starting now.
Rules of engagement apply when there's some sort of conflict or fight going on between people, and they accept that the rules of engagement are those which they will attempt to follow so that everybody is clear what is expected of them, which seems odd to me, because in that sort of scrap you should just go for it and rip someone's face off, in my opinion. But that's one of the reasons I've never been involved in those kinds of things.
Giles challenge.
Kinds.
Oh, yes.
Repetition of kinds.
Kind, yes, you did repeat the word kind before.
Still got away with a lot of old rubbish there for a while. Did it show I didn't know anything about it? No? Oh, good.
It would be easier without the repetitive one, wouldn't it?
Yes.
It would be easier still without all three, wouldn't it?
Just
but
a
then
chat.
Just a chat, right. But, Lucy, as we enjoyed that interruption of yours, we'll give you a bonus point for it, right? But, Giles, you challenged, and it was a correct challenge, and there's 4 seconds to go on rules of engagement, starting now.
There was a recent fracas, I must say, in the department where I work.
Right. So we're moving into the final round. Oh, yes. But I'll give you the score before we do that. Paul, for once, is trailing in 4th place. He's just behind Lucy Beaumont, our second-time player of the game. And then ahead of her is Marcus Brigstocke. But out on the lead is Gyles Brandreth. And, Paul, it's your turn to begin. A fork in the road. Tell us something about that. Another phrase. We're getting a lot of them in this show, aren't we? 60 seconds as usual. Starting now.
Julian Clary used to have this line in his stand-up act, "Get the meatballs out, mother, we're coming to a fork in the road." And I used to listen to this particular remark over the years, and it took me ages to work it out. But when you come to a fork in the road, it's clear there are 2 decisions to be made. Should you take the...
Giles challenge.
One decision to be made.
Oh, which one you take? Do I take the left path or the right path? Is that 2
That's one
decisions or
decision.
one?
That's one decision.
Yeah.
It's a common mistake, you
Yes,
see.
it's a common mistake.
You have the choice.
Well, is it not
And
two decisions?
No, it's not two
sorry,
decisions.
Giles,
One
I
decision is
disagree.
going up the right, one decision is going up the
no.
left.
He has one decision. He has a choice to make.
Look, it's my fault.
He had a choice to make.
It's a fork.
You're a fork in the
A
road.
fork in the road.
One is the right decision and one's the wrong decision. That's
Yeah.
two.
No, that's one decision. But for the moment, I will bow to whatever you decide. Obviously, Nicholas, you're in charge, but I think the listeners know who is right on this case.
This will give you wrinkles, you know, getting this straight.
So you're saying these are Nicholas's decisions?
Now, this is a decision for Nicholas to make.
Right.
Well, I think there are two decisions there. You can make the right one and the wrong one.
Yeah.
And even if you think...
To think that you're the person who started the dumbing down, it's hard to believe. That somebody who was picked for the job by Lord Reith himself should have brought the BBC to this.
And also, I'm looking at the score, and it's the final round.
Oh, Lord.
Paul can't possibly win, and you can't possibly lose. So I'll give the benefit of the doubt to him and say, Paul, you have another point, and you have 45 seconds. Please don't give me decisions like that again.
No.
A fork in the road, starting now.
Salvation lay in one way, and the other, who knows? Perhaps a step into the future. When we see a fork in the road, we have but one thing to face. I've already spoken about this, but perhaps I can put it in a different way that won't transgress the rules of this game. I was once approaching a fork in the road in County...
Giles challenge.
Repetition of approaching.
Yeah, you were approaching before,
Yes, that's probably right, yes.
So, Giles, the correct challenge. A fork in the road, 24 seconds, starting now.
I was recently at one of Uri Geller's fork suppers, always a slightly complicated social occasion if you are actually feeding yourself. On the way home, we found loads of abandoned forks in the road. People were infuriated that spoons had not been provided. What is the point of going to this extraordinary man's house and be given a fork to consume with?
Marcus challenge.
Repetition of house.
Yes, oh, yes. Another point to you, Marcus, for a correct challenge. And you've got him with 2 seconds to go. And it's the subject is a fork in the road. 2 seconds starting now.
An Irish term for dogging is also...
I'll give you the final score. Paul Merton was in fourth place alongside Lucy Beaumont. Now that means they were in third place. Because in second place was Marcus Brigstocke, but he was 3 points behind Gyles Brandreth, so we say, Gyles, you are our winner this week. Well, we do hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute. It only remains to say thank you to these four fine, exciting and humorous players of the game. Paul Merton, Marcus Brigstocke, Gyles Brandreth and Lucy Beaumont. I thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score. She's blown her whistle with great style when the 60 seconds elapsed. We're grateful to our producer, Victoria Lloyd. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're also indebted to this lovely audience here who've cheered us on our way with such style and aplomb. Tune in again the same time next week when we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. And also to welcome to the programme four exciting, dynamic personalities who are going to prove their ability with words and language as they try and speak on the subject that I give them, and as they try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Alan Cochrane, and seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Susan Calman. Please welcome all four of them. Beside me sits Haley Sterling, who's going to help me with a score, and she'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And Gyles, we'd like you to begin the show, and we've got a lovely subject here, frozen peas. Tell us something about frozen peas in this game, starting now.
I believe the father of frozen peas is one Clarence Birdseye, who, as I recall, in about the year 1930, having been a taxidermist and also a naturalist, decided that he would be able to freeze...
Oh, Susan, you challenged.
Without being harsh, there was a slight hesitation there regarding
With a definite hesitation.
Yes.
So, Susan, you've got in with 44 seconds to go.
I always forget after challenging you then have to carry on. I was just pleased about the challenge, I'll be very honest.
44 seconds available. Frozen peas starting now.
Frozen peas have many uses. For example, you can put them into cooking. I make a lovely pasta dish which involves frozen peas. They're also incredibly important to have within your house at any time in case of injury. For example, my wife was running...
Alan, challenge.
I think there was a repetition of for example.
Oh, was there?
Yes.
You'll never know what happened to my wife running up the stairs now.
So, Alan, the correct challenge. 27 seconds are still available. Frozen peas is a subject starting now.
Extremely useful for first aid, frozen peas. You can pop them onto a bruise or a scab. Perhaps not that, actually. It wouldn't help there. But...
Invaluable advice, but hesitation, I think.
Yeah, but it was deviation, wasn't it? Putting on a scab.
Well, absolutely,
yeah. Turns out I'm not a doctor.
But you're an enthusiastic amateur.
Yeah.
Paul, the correct challenge. You have a point. Your first point, 17 seconds available. Frozen peas starting now.
Captain Oates turned to the rest of them and said, "I'm going out now, I may be some time." As the snow swirled around the tent, Scott realised he'd seen the last of his fellow Englishmen. The frozen Arctic, or Antarctic, I don't know which one it was, they were coming in and...
I don't think they had frozen peas on Scott's expedition to the South Pole.
All over the place, though, wasn't it?
Anyway, Paul, you were speaking as the whistle went, and so you gained an extra point for doing so. You're in the lead. And Susan, we'd like you to begin the next round, and the subject is bookkeeping. Try and talk on the subject if you can, starting now.
I am not very good at bookkeeping. In fact, I am banned from doing any form of accountancy in my household. My wife, who was injured whilst running up the stairs recently, is the one who is in charge of such matters. It's because I cannot count. I have never been able to arithmetise.
Gyles, your challenge.
Hesitation.
Yeah.
Well, yes, it was a struggle for words which we interpret as hesitation. Bookkeeping is a subject, Gyles. 41 seconds available, starting now.
Bookkeeping is one of those beautiful words that contains a double O, followed by a K, and then another one of those, and then a repetition of the letter E. I would like to volunteer my services as the bookkeeper to Susan on my right here. I think she needs me at her home to help her wife up those stairs, and then possibly to push her down again, because I want Susan.
Oh. Susan, you challenge.
A number of reasons. I think safety is... I think the police being called at this point, which no, it's not right.
Pushing you down again is rather devious.
And just having him helping my wife run up the stairs, it's just all going wrong, Nicholas. I think yes.
I think you've gone far enough to get a point.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
A point to you for a correct challenge. 18 seconds are still available, starting now.
The problem that I have with regards to bookkeeping is I find it extremely difficult to keep the numbers in the right order. I have actually got a problem with such matters.
Alan, challenge.
Repetition of problem.
Yes,
problem.
It is a problem.
It is a problem. You're absolutely
Another
right.
point to you, Alan, for a correct challenge. 7 seconds are available, and you start now.
A joke I am possibly considering for my forthcoming Edinburgh Festival show is I bought a second-hand book on bookkeeping.
Are you going to use it in all?
Well, they're all going to have to buy tickets to hear the punchline now, aren't they?
Right. Anyway, at the end of that round, you were speaking as the whistle went. You gained an extra point. And you've taken the lead, only 1 point ahead of all the others. Alan, it's your turn to begin. The subject is splitting the bill. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Splitting the bill is only ever a fun experience in Chinese restaurants when you've ordered crispy duck. Other than that, it is particularly depressing when people say, "Oh, what about Steve? He didn't have a starter, but he did have a dessert. What about Susan, who enjoyed..."
Paul challenge.
A repetition of what about?
What about, yes.
Yes.
So a correct challenge, Paul. Another point. 42 seconds available. Splitting the bill, starting now.
So, as I looked around the restaurant, I realised that at least 4 of my dinner companions were actually secret Nazi spies. The war had been going very badly. I knew that submarines out in the harbour were busily waiting for my signal. I would flash my cutlery through the window. SOS's messages. SOS's.
Giles, it's
Repetition of S.
Yes, yes.
Well, I didn't actually repeat S, I said S's. So it was deviation.
Well, yes, it was all devious, but it doesn't matter.
Certainly was.
I think the SOS did actually come out, Paul.
It did, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And Giles, you've got him with 23 seconds to go on splitting the bill, starting now.
When they started splitting the bill, that's when I stopped watching. I want 1 episode a week, not a double bill of it. And they did that with Dixon of Dock Green, I wouldn't have tuned in. Midsummer Murders, occasionally they do split the bill with that, but it's unsatisfactory. You want an evening that gives you the whole drama on the same night. Splitting the bill is the end of...
Oh, this is great. They're all equal together in the lead at the end of the round. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. Oh, what a lovely subject. The old bull and bush. Tell us something about that in this game. Nothing particularly funny.
I'll bear that in mind when I start.
Right. It's a lovely pub, it's a lovely song.
Yes.
And you've got 60 seconds if you want it, Paul, starting now.
I remember the good old days television programme on British Broadcasting Medium, and it was wonderful to hear the theme tune every week. I was singing it for you now. Come, and then after that it's a bit of a repeat, so I can't go any further. But the old Bull and Bosh was a pub that was linked with the English music hall back in the 19th century. I think it was the noted comedian Charles Fitzgibbons who first said about the Bull and Bush, "I am a fictional made-up character, so therefore cannot really offer an opinion." And this was an extraordinary moment to hear this great man who up to a moment ago didn't exist.
Charles.
Repetition of moment.
Yes, there were too many moments there, yes.
Yes.
23 seconds are still available, Giles. You've got another point. And you've got the old Bull and Bush if you want it. Well, you've got it. Starting now.
I think the woman who first sang down at the old Bull and Bush was Florrie Ford, known as the Australian Mary Lloyd, a big girl who liked to play principal boy in pantomime, and when going to the ball would suddenly announce, "Yes, I'm on my way to meet Prince Charming, but via the old Bull and Bush," and would then break into her famous number that she took around the world, an international...
Yes, and those like a bit of history, it's still there. We used to live quite near it, actually. It's a lovely, got a lot of history attached to it. I don't think you could care less, because you haven't reacted. So, Giles, you've got another point for Speak as a Whistle Went, and you've increased your position. You're just ahead of the other 3, and it's also your turn to begin. And, it's another sort of a British subject, London subject, the sound of Bow Bells. Can you tell us something about the sound of Bow Bells starting now?
We have all heard of Beau Nash and Beau Brummel, but I have to say...
I haven't.
Thank you, Paul. You have now.
You have now.
He's mentioned them. I heard him mention them.
You just heard it, yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you have or you haven't, actually, Alan.
Oh, but he said we all had, and I just felt like I might have been the exception that proved the rule.
As an ex-lawyer, I very much enjoy the definition of deviation on the show. It's really quite it's a fluid court. I'm enjoying it immensely.
It is fluid, darling.
Yes. Was that deviation? The fact that you said everyone knows? Because I didn't know as well. I don't know if that helps.
Because once I've said everyone knows, everyone certainly does know, because I've just said it.
Susan, it's fluid, so one can interpret as we like and have fun.
No, it's very... Sorry, it's the lawyer in me. I mean, everyone's heard, not everyone knows. That's the definition. But you're saying everyone knows. They don't know, they've heard. I'm just... Take me out of the game. The lawyer in me is just... I was just interested.
Yes, it was the lawyer in you. That was lawyer speak.
It was lawyer speak, and I apologise.
We may hear Nicholas refer to the benefit of the doubt in a moment.
Oh, good.
No, but not on that.
Okay.
So, Gyles, you've still got the sound of Bow Bells. 55 seconds available, starting now.
Bow Bells is indeed less well known than the other two that I referred to. Of course, his costume was different. He had these beautiful tinkling bells at his sleeve. He would dance down Regent Street with a slightly affected manner, and people would say, "Oh, I love the sound of Bow Bells," as he approaches us. Turning into the Strand, he would come along, perfumed, pomaded, thinking to himself, "I am Bow."
Oh. Alan, you challenge.
I think he's already been himself, hasn't he? I think that was repetition of himself.
Oh, yes. Speaking to himself.
Nobody sounds convinced.
We were so carried away with his performance because it was so animated, I should tell our listeners, that I don't think anybody was, but Alan...
Well, luckily I remained totally unmoved and just listened to his words.
Playing the game.
You were concentrating
Absolutely.
Playing the game, not the man.
I'm like a sniper.
Yeah.
This is something you said before, Gyles. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Oh.
And you get a point for that. And there are 28 seconds on the sound of Bow Bells starting now.
The sound of Bow Bells is very difficult to hear for the sound of people playing the spoons and shouting, "Ringy dingy! All right, Tony, let's have an apple and pear, me old China governor. You want me pardon?" And other things that Cockneys are fond of uttering. That is what the sound of Bow Bells would have to carry across if it could, which it can't.
Gyles challenge.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation. I'm not surprised.
Following a crude. I mean, really, Cockneys listening will have been turning off.
Radio 4's poor audience. Here, do it. Turn up you and yours, will you? I think they're catching in me oysters, aren't they? Is that the brain of Britain? Give us a bit of a whistle, will you?
Gyles, you've got him with 4 seconds to go. The sound of Bow Bells starting now.
The joy of the churches in the city of London is that you can hear the sound of Bow Bells on all the other...
So Gyles is leaping forward. He's got many points. He's taken the lead ahead of the other three. And Susan, it's your turn to begin. Napoleon. Oh, we get around, don't we? Tell us something about Napoleon in this game, starting now.
I've always felt a great affinity towards Napoleon due to his height issues. I am 4'11", sometimes shorter than that in cold weather. And I have often felt that the Napoleon complex is something which my family and I all have, which is the anger that people feel when tall others pat them on the head as people do. I have been...
I was just going to say, you're doing really well.
So what's your challenge with the rules of just a minute?
Oh, well, it did seem like there was a bit of hesitation.
I was just staccato because I'm short.
She didn't hesitate at all.
Oh, OK.
I didn't hear her hesitate.
Repetition, then.
We're all...
Deviation?
No, I'm going to pat you on the head, Susan, and say... It was an incorrect challenge, and you have 35 seconds still available. Napoleon, starting now.
Other things that have happened due to my Napoleon issues, I was...
Gyles challenge.
A repetition of issues.
Oh, yes, you did say that before.
Height issues, yes.
Gosh, you're all very much on it this evening, aren't you?
Yeah, they played it a few times before.
Have they?
Yes.
I thought this was the first episode. I thought everyone was doing very well. Apart from me.
30 seconds for you, Gyles, on Napoleon, starting now.
This is the 200th anniversary of the Battle of Waterloo, and at the party marking this anniversary, Susan and I played Napoleon and Josephine as a cross-dressing experiment.
Susan, you challenged.
Okay.
Repetition.
Yes, repetition of... I think it was anniversary. Yes,
Yes.
it was anniversary. Just right at the
yes.
very beginning of it. You said anniversary twice, although I was enjoying where it was going. Yes.
And you have the subject back. 19 seconds. Napoleon starting now.
He was a fellow of slightly immature stature, but he was also a fantastic warrior, I think. To be honest, I know little of Napoleon, apart from the fact he had a complex. I'm much more attuned to...
Alan Challenge.
I think that's a repetition of complex, isn't
Yes,
it?
that's right. So, Alan, another correct challenge to you. 6 seconds available. Napoleon starting now.
Famously, Napoleon used a Napoleon pocket where he would keep his Oyster card and various other sundries.
So, the end of the round, Gyles is still in the lead. Alan's now catching up as follow him in. And then it's Susan Calman and Paul in that order. And Alan, it's with you to begin. How to light a fire. Strange subject, but an interesting one. 60 seconds are available, starting now.
I have never felt particularly manly, but one of the times I felt least so in my life was when a man who had left a fire ready to be lit in a tent that I was hiring had then to be phone called by...
Gyles Challenge.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation, yes.
Yeah.
So, Gyles...
Did you have to ring him to ask him how to light the fire?
Yeah. That's where it was leading. I think I just felt awash with shame as I was retelling it.
46 seconds, Gyles, are available. How to light a fire, starting now.
Some people will have heard of the film The Stud, based on a novel by Jackie Collins, in which her sister Joan starred. What not a lot of people realise is that I was slated...
Paul
A
Challenge.
repetition of people.
Yes.
Oh.
So, too many people.
We'll get
there,
into
yes.
one of his anecdotes about how he was
Well,
the body double for the star. Some ludicrous made-up piece of nonsense.
Pot kettle.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Paul, correct challenge, so 36 seconds are still available. How to light a fire, starting now.
Firelighters.
Your challenge?
Yeah, he'd stopped.
Well, he got his laugh, and he thought, well, why carry on? No. And you've got in there, we interpret that as hesitation, of course. How to light a fire, 34 seconds are starting now.
Some gas fires, you can push in the dial, turn it, keep it pressed, and wait for 30, 29, 28, 20...
Giles challenge.
Repetition of 20.
Yeah, there's too many 20s there.
Surely it's a different word.
It is a different word.
27 is a different word from 28.
No, they're
isn't it?
hyphenated, but they're still...
They're hyphenated?
You're still treating...
Oh, I've been writing it wrong all these years. I'm so sorry. Sorry, everyone, sorry.
But you did repeat 20.
Yeah, so it would seem.
26 seconds, Giles. How to light a fire, starting now.
In 1978, I was in my prime when I met Paul Merton's mother. She said, "You light my fire. You truly do. There's something extraordinary about you." The whole family has been in denial ever since.
How dare you! My mother would never have looked at a conservative.
So, Paul, you challenged 4 times.
Yes.
So what is your challenge on the rules
I don't
adjustment?
know. Deviation.
Yes, it's impossible. And you never met his mother.
Met her?
No.
Met her?
Now you come to mention it, there was a really horrible jumper they used to get out occasionally and cry into. Put it back in the airing cupboard.
Paul, if any bit of the doubt, 17 seconds. How to light a fire, starting now.
Nicholas ran in and said to all the other cavemen, "I've discovered the secret of fire. All you've got to do is get hold of some twigs and start rubbing them together, and the friction creates a flame. Isn't it extraordinary that the stuff that powers the sun is also the same material that we can create on the earth to keep us warm at night, to make sure..."
So at the end of that round, Paul got some points. He's moved forward. He's now in 3rd place, just ahead of Susan, and 1 point behind Alan. Giles is still in the lead. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is a scenic route. Tell us something about a scenic route, starting now.
A scenic route is always rather pleasant if you have plenty of time on your hands. If we look at some of the fantastic rail links that exist between Scotland and England, there are some wonderful scenic vistas as the tracks cross the...
Gyles, challenge.
A bit of hesitation.
A bit of hesitation. So a scenic route is with you, Gyles, and there are 45 seconds available, starting now.
It was in August that I decided to visit the Welsh Riviera to enjoy the scenic route. I had not anticipated the hailstones, and they made viewing the scene a little bit difficult. We arrived at Aberystwyth, and all I could visualise through the mist was the sign indicating where the bed and breakfast was. I moved on to Llandudno on my scenic route, and there had the pick of the shelters. I was seated in one of them when along came a fellow traveller, a relative, I believe, of Paul's, who said, "Oh, I remember you from the old days when you knew his mum." I said, "I'm on a scenic route now. I can't talk about that experience. I'm looking out to sea and loving the view, the waves rising over the rocks."
So Giles Brandreth was again speaking as the whistle went, gained the extra point and has increased his lead at the end of the round. And Susan, it's your turn to begin. The subject now, the Albert Hall. Tell us something about that edifice in this game, starting now.
First of all, I'd like to say how grateful I am that on Just a Minute, all of the topics I have covered are English in some way. There is an Albert Hall in Scotland, in Stirling, as it happens. It was named after a different Albert who worked in the train company and was called Berter. Albert... I genuinely know nothing about the Albert Hall.
Gyles, you challenge.
Can I say that I don't wish to challenge? I know she hesitated, but she's talking correctly. Because you said the Albert Hall. And the Albert Hall that you're thinking of in London is actually the Royal Albert Hall.
I know.
Oh, yes.
The Albert Hall that they gave you is the Scottish Albert Hall. So that though I've interrupted, you were actually absolutely on the money, and I want to salute you for that.
Do you know, the problem is there is no Albert Hall in Stirling. I just made that...
I'm sorry, that's enough of that. Hesitation and deviation. Hesitation, deviation. I think the subject's mine. Thank you. I see now the way you're going to play this.
As we're in the penultimate round, I think we should be generous and say, Susan, you've got the Albert Hall. You still have the subject of the Albert Hall, and there are 39 seconds starting now.
I have been to the Albert Hall in London, in all honesty. I went to see Victoria Wood, the comedian, play there. My main memory of going to that particular venue is how ginormous it was to me as a tiny Napoleon-type person. I could see the performer on the stage from far away, looking like a thimble, and I enjoyed the acoustics of the occasion. I've also seen John Barrowman play at the Albert Hall. A curious choice, you might think, but I find his eccentric accent something glorious to behold as a Scottish person.
So Susan Calman, starting with the subject, and in spite of interruptions, finished with the subject. Gained that extra point for doing so. She's still in fourth place, but she's a very, very good fourth place because she's only 2 points behind Paul Merton and Alan Cochrane, and they're a few points behind Giles Brandreth as we move into the final round. Thank you. I had to wait for it, but thank you. And Alan, it's your turn to begin, and the subject is my worst habit. Starting now.
My worst habit is very difficult to define. It may be hesitation, deviation, or repetition, or it could be the fact that I constantly scatter my socks upon the floor in the marital bedroom, which is a very difficult thing for my ever-patient wife to accept. However, it may also be the fact that I occasionally have been known to pick my nose and eat it. But I'm not certain if that is, in fact, my worst habit.
No, don't tell us any more.
No, I quite agree with Paul, actually. Yes. What's the situation? It's not going to make any difference to the result, is it?
No, well, Gyles is in the lead, so...
Shall we give you the benefit of the doubt, Alan, and say you carry on? My worst habit, 30 seconds starting now.
Flirting with Gyles Brandreth ranks above the idea of picking the vestibule that I was discussing earlier.
Paul challenge.
Repetition of picking.
Yeah, that's right. So you've got in anyway, Paul, so that's fair play. And you have my worst habit, and you have 22 seconds starting now.
I dress up as Janice. I walk the streets of Paris lonely at night, my eyes casting glances at the boats as they travel past. My heart thinks of the days when I walked the left bank with Nicholas.
Oh, you're walking. Giles, you challenge.
Repetition of walking.
Oh, yes, too much walking, absolutely.
Yes, you've did a bit too much walking.
Yes,
and
he
Giles,
was.
you've got it with 9 seconds to go on my worst habit starting now.
I have become a Twitter obsessive, and undoubtedly my worst habit is when I go to the loo at about 2 in the morning, I inevitably on the way back...
Yes, Susan, you challenge.
It was hesitation.
It was indeed. So, Susan, you've got in with half a second to go. My worst habit starting now. So, Susan was attempting to speak as the whistle went and gained that extra point for doing so. And we give you the final situation. Oh, what a fair one. Alan Cochrane, Susan Culman and Paul Merton are all equal in second place. And they are 3 or 4 points behind Gyles Brandreth, who's the lead, and therefore we say the winner this week. We do hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute. And it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Alan Cochrane, Susan Culman and Gyles Brandreth. I thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle with such style when the 60 seconds elapsed. And we're deeply indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're grateful to Victoria Lloyd, who is our producer. And we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre, who've cheered us on our way magnificently. So from me, from the team, and from the audience, goodbye, thank you. Tune in again the next time we play Just a Minute. Yay.